Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the ATA program today for our CLC Connection for higher education. My name is Mackenzie, and I will serve as your host and moderator for today's event. We will be diving into a great conversation with our honored guest, whom I will introduce shortly, about their career, education, and transition into the workforce. Before we get started, I wanted to cover some housekeeping items. This is an opportunity for you to engage and ask our guests as many questions as you wish. To do so, please utilize the chat box for questions and commentary. We will ask your questions out loud and answer them live. Additionally, this event will be recorded and made available to you later on for you to rewatch and share with your friends. Without further ado, let's get started. Today, I will introduce to you Ashley Rosebrough. She is our ATA program manager, and she will be sharing her journey into higher education. Hello.
Hello, how you doing, Mackenzie?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Excuse me 1 second. Okay. Thank you for the introduction. Wonderful welcome. Thank you all for the applauses. I'm going to do my best to be a guest because, as you know, our roles are reversed today.
Yes.
But I am happy to be able to talk to y'all about a career in higher ed, and I thank me for looking out to see who could do it. And I was like, you know what? I want to talk about myself. So hey, here we are.
Perfect opportunity. Okay. Well, I'm going to start you off with a couple icebreaker questions. My first one for you is, if you could have an unlimited supply of one thing besides money, because I know everyone wants money, what would it be?
And if I could have an unlimited supply of one thing, what would it be?
Yes.
I think I already have it. It's a matter of tapping into it, and that would be faith. I would say that if I could have anything, it would be an unlimited supply of knowing that my faith is enough power for me to do whatever I set my heart and my mind to do confidently, courageously, and consistently. So I would have an unlimited supply of that and know it.
Yeah. Beautiful response.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next one for you. If you could have any other profession other than the one that you are in now, what would it be and why? I would love to be, if I could have any other profession, I would be a professional track and field athlete. I would be an Olympian. Oh.
That was my first passion. When I went into higher ed was track and field, and if I could do it, I would tap into it, and I would run the 2 and the 400. Those would be my specialties. Yeah.
Do you do any like marathons or races?
No, I do not do a marathon, but one of my goals, my mom does marathons. She does BGM, which is BGR, which is Black Girls Run. And she's done the rock and roll marathon. So one day I hope that I'll be able to run a full marathon with my mom one day. That's one of my goals. But other than that, I'm quick trip around the track. That's it.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started off and share us your educational background of who you are, what inspired you to journey into higher education, where you are now.
Absolutely. So I started off as an undergrad at ADM Corpus Christi, where I ran track and field for the university. Go Islanders.
Shakas.
Yeah, Shakas. I really wanted, coming out of high school, I did not know what realistic options were for me outside of athletics. So I leveraged that to go on to run Division I college, which was one of my goals, where I studied sports management at A&M Corpus Christi and minored in marketing. It took me a while to get to that major, and because I thought I wanted to do biomedical science and then pre-physical therapy, and I wanted to do it, but I did not have the capacity to get the information with the sciences and the math. Mm-hmm. So I struggled a bit with that, and it would led me to kinesiology, which was practical application for me because athletes, I can use when I'm in the classroom back onto the track. So I ran, graduated with my bachelor's, and then I took a year off to figure out life. I thought once I graduated with, my experience as a student athlete and my degree in sports management, I would be able to transition into becoming a track and field coach, which is what I wanted to do. Interviewed for some places, actually had my uncle make some connections for me, and I was still missing a component that was needed for breaking into the field, which was recruiting. I did not have that. So I took a year off, and thankful, shout out to my parents who let me live at home while I figured it out. I was working as a fitness trainer for one of the gyms there, which was also my job while I was an undergrad. I was a full-time student in undergrad and a full-time track athlete, and I was working at least 20 to 25 hours a week, juggling all that. Yeah. So took my year off, and trying to figure out everything. Working at the gym was great, but it wasn't. I needed more stability. So I had applied to an insurance company up the street from my house on 3 times, and on the 3rd time, I finally got the position.
3rd time's the charm.
It is the charm. It is the charm. And I was there for training, and that's when in training I realized that this work was not fulfilling to me. And I was in a classroom with about 25, customer service representatives trained on to do the work. And, one by one, it just felt like everybody was going, they knew that they had to be here, but this just wasn't where they wanted to be.
Yeah.
So one by one, people started leaving. People started going to pursue their passions and what fulfilled them. And I was like, all right, cool, this is great. I'm in the right place, hopefully that rubs off on me.
Yeah.
So one day I was at home looking at universities, I know that I want to do this. I know that I want to coach, even though I didn't work together the first time out of college. I could still go and see if I can volunteer someone to break into the field.
Yeah.
So one day I reached out to a university in San Antonio, and I was like, hey, my name is Ashley. I'm a former student athlete at A&M Corpus Christi. I graduated with my BS in kinesiology. I'm passionate about, track and field and student athletes, and I'm just trying to break into the field. Is there an opportunity for me to volunteer with you all? Here's my resume. I would love to hear back from y'all.
Yeah.
Heard back from them. Super excited. A week later, I heard back the coach. We sat down, we had a conversation, and then from there, they said, we would love to have you a part of this. And I was like, great, perfect. When can I start? And they said, well, you can start as soon as possible, but these are the hours where we're training. And I was like, oh, I got a job. I got a 9 to 5, and I need to work some things out. So I think toward the end of my last month at the insurance company, it was a question of, this is what I want to do. I need to make this step, but what if I fail? What if I fail? And something like deep within my spirit was like, Ash, but what if you fly, Ash?
Yeah.
What if you fly? Like you have this full time, you're still working part-time at the gym. You can work some things out to do coaching and still have a job, a job that with an income. And I was like, cool. So I did the unprofessional thing of submitting my 2 weeks as a 1 day, effective immediately. Yes, don't do that. I do not recommend that. But I had a real conversation with my trainer and my would-be supervisor about this opportunity, and they understood, they respected it, and I packed up my things. I went home in the middle of the day.
Wow.
And so I get home, and my parents are home. I get home before my parents, and my parents are like, what are you doing here? I was like, you know what, listen, y'all, I quit my job. I want to go coach. It's happening.
Dreams coming true.
Yes, I was excited. And they was like,
looking at you like, what the heck did you just do?
Yes. And I was like, what you mean you quit? I was like, I'm leaving. They're like, well, what are you gonna do about your livelihood? I was like, don't worry, I got it. I'm gonna figure it out. It's fine. My favorite phrase, it's fine. I got it. Even if I don't, I got it. So that was an interesting conversation I had with my parents, but I believed in myself and what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And from there, I started coaching and really enjoyed it. I was trying to figure out how I could expand on my education. And I was a student who needed a lot of hand holding during my undergraduate years. I was in my senior year and I had a 175. So that was the type of the circumstances we were working with in regards to GPA. Yeah. So it took me a year and a half to bring my 175 to a 257. I needed at least a 2.5 to do the internship to graduate. Ooh. So when it came time to figuring out if I had the grades to apply to grad school, that was like, I don't know if I can. So I talked to one of my professors who was able to calculate my last 60 hours of my degree. And I had a 3.0 for my last 60, which is really the content of the major. And I was like, oh, you ain't do so bad, girl.
That's really
and then I applied to grad school and I got in, which was like, oh snap, we really flying. We up here, like we up here. And so I went to UTSA and studied educational leadership and policy studies with an emphasis on higher ed, ELPS for short. And I was working as a coach. For volunteering as a coach, I was able to work as a TA for the year and a half I was in grad school for the first year experience. And I was also interning for the athletic department as an advisor for athletics. So I was pretty busy, but I was able to do all the things that I wanted to do. And that's just grad school. And we'll probably have to have another conversation about that.
Oh yeah, I have a question coming up for that.
Yeah, that's definitely part two. But I graduated and I started my full-time career at UH as an academic advisor. I did that for a year, and then an opportunity came here at UHD to be an academic success coach. And I applied. I was a success coach for, I believe, 5 months when our director, Christy Turnquest, we had made a connection briefly for a little bit. And when ATA was getting started, and she came to my office and we had a conversation, you know, like, I shared with her, I'm looking for these opportunities, you know, any guidance. She said, well, I'm looking for a project coordinator. I think you should apply. And I was like, great, I'm gonna do it. I applied. Apparently I interviewed well, because here I am. And I was a coordinator for a year and a half. And then at the start of, we are in 2022 now? Yeah. 2021, I was promoted to program manager. And that is what I am. I am a program manager now.
Here we are today.
Here we are today. How did we get here?
That is an awesome.
I don't know. Yeah, it was. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're glad to have you here with us. And so I guess I could ask the next question. Describe the 3 things that were most important to you when choosing your career, pretty much where you are today.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. 3 things that have mattered the most to me. One is stability. The industry of higher ed, there's high turnover for a number of reasons. So for me, I was looking for stability in just knowing that I would have a job. There's universities all across the nation. There's always a need for higher educators. So this field was the best field. It was a matter of once I got in, would this be something where I'm, you know, bouncing back and forth to different institutions? So stability, support, and I say support from like your department leadership, your institutional leadership, and then the compensation piece support. As you know, as many educators know, that we are overworked and underpaid. In higher education, unfortunately, it is even worse. So the support I was looking for was in the realm of, would I be able to make a salary where I would be able to have a livelihood? Yeah. You know, it's not, there's more to life than just paying bills, and I wanted that. And then on top of that was, what type of benefits is my institution providing? You know, universities, they pay a lot towards the benefits of their employees. I'm blessed enough to pay $0 for my healthcare, which is a really big deal. And on top of that, they have a lot of benefits and perks that we can take advantage of, like FRT, which is fitness release time. So 3 days out of the week, I will leave early for the day to go to the gym on campus, and I can work out. And I think that's important because exercise and well-being. So although that's number 2. And then for me was being able to show up full. And what I mean by full is in the way that I appear when I come to work. Would I have to I didn't want to negotiate who I am. At the end of the day, I am a Black cisgendered woman who is Christian and queer. And my gender expression is androgynous or non-conforming. There are certain things in that I think I am okay with negotiating on, like my spirituality. I'm not going to be out here talking about Jesus loved you. I'm not gonna push that down your throat. So that's something because church and state. So I'm okay with, sharing that in private settings, depending on who the student is and depending on that space. But the other things I was not gonna negotiate. And I wanted to make that very clear, showing up full, because I don't want to be in a position where I have to keep minimizing myself just to be in that space. So those are the 3 things that mattered the most to me when choosing a career in higher ed.
Wow.
Yes.
Very good answer.
Thank you.
So you've gone obviously through a lot. You've gone through a lot of different jobs and phases in your career, but you always keep going back to the mental health, the need for exercise. So how do you decompress or take care of your mental health from day to day, dealing with higher education?
Okay. Yes. So while I'm here at work, I go for walks. If you work in the office, around the hours of 12 to 2, Ashley, hey y'all, I'm going for a walk, I'll be back. That's it. I go for walks. It helps me break up the day. It helps me to create some space in whatever's going on in the day. It doesn't have to be good or doesn't have to be hectic or quiet and cool. I will go for a walk. I like being outside. I like being able to skip and dance and listen to my music and no one bothered me. So I do that during the day. And then when I get home, I go to the gym. Gym is therapy. And then I have a therapist. I'm a licensed professional. I talk to them. And then I just purchased a video game console. I'm a part of the Switch community. So the last week has been me playing Mario Kart or Zelda or Pokemon or something, and ignoring text messages and making people upset because I'm ignoring them to play my video game, which I love. So those are some of the things that I do to decompress.
Those are fun. Animal Crossing is my one to go to. I can't.
I'm trying to get there. I don't have Animal Crossing yet. I've been told by so many ATA students that I need to get with the program. So
you have to.
I will probably be having Animal Crossing soon as well.
Okay, can't wait to see you there. All righty. So of all the positions you've been through and throughout your journey, what are some of the strengths and skills to have when pursuing a career like this, and ones that juniors and seniors can start working on right now?
Absolutely. For higher ed, I think one of the best things students can do is start working in different offices, getting a student job if you're able to. There's work study and non-work study. And just learning those ins and outs of what that department does. That's a great way to begin to foster skills of just getting used to the climate of working in a higher ed setting. Additionally, networking. The degrees of, they say 6 degrees of separation, but in higher ed, it's maybe like 2 or 3. Somebody knows somebody who knows somebody who ends up knowing you, and you never know who knows you and who can speak your name in different spaces. So I would start networking now, whether that be in your peer group or with a staff member or faculty member you connect with on campus. Start building that network and then learning the intangibles. You can go to school and get a whole master's degree in higher ed, student affairs, or ed leadership and other things. However, the intangibles of how to do more with less, how to, you know, how to handle conflict, you know, how to put an event together, or how to send an email etiquette. Those are intangibles on top of the tangibles that you will learn in the classroom, like evaluation and assessment, or budgeting, or the history of higher ed and the different complexities of student affairs, academic affairs, auxiliaries, and what does that mean and what does that look like? So I would say that those are some of the skills that students can foster now while they're here.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great response. So do we have any questions from the audience looking in, watching here? So we start in the chat first and then move up. I think I already see one.
Currently, there are no questions at this time.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Perfect. So Adrielle?
First of all, huge fan. And then next, so my question here is, speaking on a sense of education, what would you consider to be your philosophy of education?
Absolutely. I wrote this down like years ago. And I think right now, my philosophy would be to present education in a way that empowers the student, empowers myself, and gives us an opportunity to think about things from a deeper perspective of like critical thinking, or why are things the way that they are, and having those courageous conversations about those things as we are on our pathway to success and excellence. And I say empower because I believe that everybody has a power. It just takes the right type of educator to pull it out of them. So that would be my philosophy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice.
Yes.
David?
So you have an MED, correct? What was your concentration?
So my concentration for my ELPS in higher ed was academic clustering and student athletes. So for those who are not familiar with the scope of the NCAA, there's this thing called the APR, which measures the academic progress of each team towards like their degree. And that's how teams can continue to play and not be on suspension as a team, everything like that. But with that comes shortcuts. So for instance, we're in the middle of March Madness right now. Basketball is a revenue generating sport, which means that they have a higher demand on the expectations of how the student athletes are supposed to perform athletically. So in order to perform at the high level, that elite level that you are athletically, unfortunately, corners get cut academically. When they like herd athletes into paper classes. So for instance, sociology would be one of those classes. Kinesiology would be one of those majors. And those paper classes is where the rigor is not as high. If the rigor is not as high, students can devote their time and energy and effort towards their sport. That's an issue because at the end of the day, when these athletes are graduating, which is the goal, they are unprepared. They don't have the resources to make that transition. They're in a degree that they don't want to have, or they get cheated for the sake of the NCAA. And so that's what my degree was on. That was my paper was on. So my whole year and a half of my grad school program, all my papers I wrote about was tying into student athletes and looking at different student athlete development theories like Baxter and Magolda's self-authorship theory, how student athletes can go through a phase of understanding what creating success for them, what that looks like, and how we as student affairs professionals can cultivate that and support them along the way. So that's what that was. Great question.
Yeah.
Great question.
Really good question.
If you want to read my paper, let me know because I wrote that. I wrote it.
Share it.
I wrote it.
Yeah.
I wrote it well.
People will share it.
So yeah.
Awesome. Another one, David?
Yes. So since you wrote a paper, I'm assuming you took the thesis route.
So for my program, which I hope we can talk about a little bit more,
Yes.
I did not have a thesis for my master's. I had a comp final, which was about a 10 paper where I looked at a problem. I assigned a theory to the problem to address it. And I also looked how myself as someone going into higher ed could put things into practice from, the theory and address the issue. So that's what my paper was on. It was a comp final. And then I did a presentation on it. Yeah. Not all grad programs require a thesis. Yeah. Or the GRE.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew
So,
that one.
yeah.
Okay.
I did the same.
All right.
And I think we have a
Interesting.
question in the chat.
Do we have a question in there?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
All right, give it to us.
How do you think working in higher education differs from working in other education spaces?
Ooh, that is a,
Good.
Oh, why that?
how do
Oh, yeah.
how do you think working in higher education differs from working in other educational spaces?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay. To be completely transparent, my as in K through 12, got you. I think there's a lot of there's red tape everywhere, and so I think with K through 12,
A lot.
there are, you have to, there's benchmarks, there's STAR, there's a lot more hands-on, like from legislation and government
Yeah.
and red tape, where I can teach this, I can teach to the student's capacity, but I can't do it the way I want to do it. And that's what for me was unattractive in deciding whether I wanted to do K through 12 or higher ed. I wanted to be able to have more academic liberty in how I learn with students and teach students. So for me, I think the red tape is difficult. I also think that they get from me, I mean, you get summers off, which we don't get in higher ed. The starting salaries are higher,
Yeah.
depending in Texas, at least, depending by county and city and everything like that. Across the board in higher ed, it's not.
So there's a lot of pros and cons. to
Yeah,
both.
absolutely. But for me, it was just, I don't like kids. For me, it was, if you have a passion for
The last
kids,
straw. Yeah.
if you don't like kids and you don't want to be around children all day, then that's different, because now you're working with adult learners from the ages of 18 to, if you're at UHD or other institutions, 65 plus adult learners. So that was the difference for me, in my opinion. And you really just have to know yourself, and when you're choosing which industry of education to work for, whether that be K through 12 or a nonprofit or a for-profit institute, a company, or and then you can get into for-profit, nonprofit institutions, higher ed. So you just got to know. You just got to know yourself.
Awesome. Good question. Are we good in the chat? Is there any more?
And no disrespect to the sociology majors. Sociology is a great major. I no disrespect. It's just when it comes to student athletes, I don't know. They don't know what to do with it.
Yes, we have one more. What
Okay. Well,
have you noticed moving from 100% student-facing position to a more administrative position?
What have I noticed about me, or just in general with the field, with the profession?
Just you.
Okay, great.
okay.
I like this question because I've thought about it a little bit. When I was so I would say off tops, I am blessed to be able to have the liberty to go right next door and see students whenever. I come in here. I don't meet with students as often. This is how I meet with, this is how I meet with students. When I come to the ATA lounge, I pop in, I check in.
Yeah.
So that has been a difference for me, not being able to have like my day. As a success coach, as an advisor, I had appointments. So I knew I was going to meet with a student from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday. I knew that, but now it's, all right, I may see some students some days on Friday. I barely see students unless, you know, you happen to be in the lounge or you're a student worker working at the desk. So for me, it's different. I do at times miss the more like the 50-50 component of it, where I'm able to actually have appointments where I'm meeting with students. But I think that this is a good space for me to be, where I'm able to program and I'm able to like still get the perspectives of students and see them and connect with them on a daily basis without having like a confined 100% student-based schedule, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question.
I think that does. I think it's nice to have like a balance
It
between the
is.
two. Too much at once, like,
Yes.
yeah, have to break it
yes.
up in between. So we had a couple more questions. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, with you, I guess with you being 100% and being authentically yourself within higher education, do you find it sometimes difficult, or how do you maneuver within that space with, you know, with just you being the higher you move up, the more political it gets.
Yeah.
So kind of how do you kind of navigate through those spaces?
Whew. Great question. How do I navigate the spaces of showing up as my full self while, you know, having to play the game, you know, politics of higher ed, the red tape of higher ed as well. You know, I'm still figuring that out now. I am on my way to being a leader, an administrative leader in higher ed. So I do not know what it looks like up there.
Yeah.
But I can see that there is a space for me up there as I look at different educators who have locks, Black educators who have locks, or educators who are Black queer in academia, or Black women in academia. I can look to them and, you know, have conversations about that. And I think one of the most accessible people for me would be my director. She's a Black woman. She's young. She is getting her PhD, and she's on her pathway to being a leader, an administrative leader in higher ed. So we have conversations about, you know, what about this, or should I do this, or, you know, what does this look like? What do I need to prepare for? And you know, she'll give me the honest truth, like, hey, Ashley, you know, you can be pro-Black, but you also have to remember that there is a certain level of game that you have to play in order to get to where you want to be. And for me, that's hard because I don't like playing the game. I don't like playing the game, but I do know that I will have to in some capacity. And I think once I get there, it's a matter of what are you willing to, what are you willing to bend on? I hope that they don't ask me to, you know, change my attire because I'm not doing that, or, you know, alter the state of my hair because I'm not doing that either. You know, those things I won't bend on. And I think for you, you have to have your non-negotiables.
The boundaries are important.
Yes, the boundaries are important. So for me, that is where I'm at. And I hope that I can continue to have more conversations with the people that I want to see. The people that I see are in these spaces as I'm on my way there. And then once I get there, be that person as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Adrielle?
2 questions real quick, just really briefly touching on attire. What would be acceptable attire, if you will, for people in higher ed?
Ooh, great question. It varies. It varies. I know that different offices have different cultures and institutions have guidelines as well. That is really a conversation that you can have with your supervisor or your supervisor. What is appropriate in the office? I think now with the pandemic, what is appropriate office attire is different now after being 2 years in a polo up top, sweats at the bottom.
With the slippers on.
Got this party going on. It looks different. And I think that I like UHD because you don't have to dress up in a 3-piece suit or have the kitten heels and the pencil skirt and the whole what we think of professional wear. You don't have to do that to be one professional. Yeah, I think your professional is your conduct, your attitude, your posture, not just your appearance. And you can still be someone that is about their stuff. Like, you know me by my work, you know what I'm saying? Regardless of what I have on. But I think sometimes you do have to dress up. Like for this, you got to dress up. For an event, you got to dress up. If you're meeting with your provost or your vice president or the president, don't come in here like you just don't care.
Yeah.
Present yourself the way you would want. Present yourself like you care. Like you care about the job, you care about the work you're doing. Dress like you're paying taxes. That's what I say. Dress like you pay taxes, and dress like you file your taxes on time. Those are two different things. Okay, but you get what I'm saying. So I would say that, yeah, that's what I would say.
And the other question, so earlier you mentioned counseling and advising. So for counselor and advisor, what would be like what's the difference among those two?
So counseling and advising, or success coaching and advising?
Or either or, like if you can just explain what the differences are, or even the similarities as well among those positions.
Absolutely. So I would say academic advising and success coaching. I've never been a counselor, so I can't speak to that, but I've been both a success coach and an advisor. They are the nexus of student affairs. Academic advising discusses, your degree plan, the courses you should take, when you should take them, and addresses any of the concerns regarding your academics, like your GPA, those type of appeals, petitions, applying for graduation. Those are your academic advisor things. Okay. Your success coach things are the things that impact you and how you show up in the classroom. So for instance, time management, your success coach would be the one you would go to. You would have that discussion with. You want to have a conversation with your professor. There's some overlap with success coaches and advisors, but you could have that conversation with either or. But success coaches really work with you to create a game plan on how you can be successful and do well in your classes and connect you to resources while you're here as a student. But like I mentioned, overlap, because not everybody has a success coach. Well, advisors take on the hat of the success coach and the advisor most of the time, where they're also addressing needs of academics and non-academic concerns, which then just puts, it makes the role of an academic advisor so much more weighted for the academic advisor, because now I'm addressing things that are in my scope, but not necessarily my responsibility. But it is also my responsibility as well. It can get convoluted, I believe is the right word for that. Convoluted. Yeah. Great question though.
Good job.
If you have both, see both often.
Yeah.
Often.
Definitely, and especially the advisor.
Yes, especially the advisor.
Awesome. So that actually kind of leads into a question I had earlier. So we have student affairs and academic affairs. Is there different paths into those departments versus just going straight into higher ed? What is that? How do you get into there versus just teaching in higher ed? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. To my understanding, academic affairs is research. Academic affairs is institutional effectiveness. Academic affairs is faculty. Those things like heavily related on academics, classroom, teaching, research. Then we have student affairs, which is student activities or DEI or student life or sports and fitness. ATA is academics and student affairs. To me, even though we're housed under a different department, that's not student life. So those are and it just depends on the institution. So for instance, here at UHD, student activities is student affairs, but at UTSA, it could be something different. It could be an auxiliary, which is something totally completely different from like student affairs or academic affairs. Auxiliary here would be enrollment or admissions or the registrar's office, things like that. So it just depends on the university, and that is a great question to ask a dean, a dean of your college. If you have a connection with them, ask your SGA representatives, what is our academic affairs look like? What does our student affairs look like? That's something to ask your professor if you are in a program studying for higher ed, educational leadership. You can dive into those things, but it looks different at each institution.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for that. So we talked a lot about grad school, and I know a lot of people probably have a lot of questions right now. I do. I'm a senior. I have to start thinking about it. So can you talk a little bit about your process of grad school, the application process, like beginning to end? What does it look like?
Okay, so from beginning to end, do your research. Look at all the programs. Look at when you're looking at programs, look at faculty there. Do they have like research interests that you have? Look at the funding. Ooh, look at the funding. Please look at the funding. please look at the funding. Look at TA-ships, or which are teaching assistantships, where you're working and you're studying and you're teaching a class, or working with a faculty member to teach their class. And it's typically, for me, as a first year TA, I was helping a first year professor teach their EDU 1300 class. That was it. So I was working with freshmen. Look at GAs, graduate assistantships, where they will pay for, some of them pay for at least a piece of your tuition or the whole pie of your tuition, which is great. Look at GRAs, which is graduate research assistantships, where you will have an opportunity to work on a research project with a faculty member or a program and get paid to do that, which I also had an opportunity to do for the summer. Look at those funding opportunities. Look at the student organizations available on campus. There are, I know 4 years talk about, undergrad or student organizations. There are grad student organizations that you can be a part of. Look at those so that you can begin to get involved and build a community while you're here at that school. Look at the time frame of how long that program will last, and when the classes are. So for instance, for higher ed, many higher ed folk are already in their job. Like they're already working they're already in their career. They're just taking this next step in their education for career mobility, or because they just want to, get a master's in it. So a lot of the times they will schedule classes in the evenings. And they're kind of long, not gonna lie.
Like how long?
So for me, most of my classes were 5:30 to 8. Just one time a week though. That's the part, one time a week.
It's bearable.
But 2.5 hours, that's a lot of time sitting down, but there's breaks, there's snacks before, after, and during class, there's breaks. So those are some of the things. And if there's a department, I would say for me, what has helped most, when I made the decision to go to grad school, I had an idea in mind of the department I wanted to work for, which was athletics. So once I found out I got admitted, I reached out to the athletic academic department and said, hey, my name's Ashley, did that whole knock on your door thing, see what's out there, see if you're open. And so once I started interning for the athletic program before I actually started taking classes. So that was something that was helpful for me. And that's the beginning. During, reach out to your network. if there's a professor that you know, or a director or somebody that you connected with at that campus that can speak to who you are, get them in the loop of what you're trying to pursue. You know, I'm trying to go for my master's. I'll need a letter of recommendation. Do you mind writing me one? Sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no. And you can ask that question to them. And then when they write that letter, you can, read it and say, hey, can you fluff this up a little bit more? Or can you speak to this? Or can you take this out, But send them all that they're asking for that letter of recommendation as well. So they're not just on a whim doing it. The GRE, I knew that I did not want to take the GRE ever again. Still don't. If I never have to, I'm great. I knew that I didn't want to take the GRE, so I was specifically looking for programs that did not require the GRE. Most institutions now are moving away from it. But if you know you don't want to take it, look for there are amazing programs that do not require the GRE. And if you really want to go to that program and they do require the GRE, make time to study enough where you can confidently go into the test and perform your absolute best confidently. Also, in regards to the program admission, some programs offer conditional status. So for instance, if you did not make the GPA requirement, which most of the time is either a 2.75 or a 3.0 for most higher ed programs, master programs, you can be admitted on conditional status. Well, they'll admit you in, and during the first semester, you will have to do well, at least get a 3.0 or something, and then you'll be fully admitted. And those conditional statuses help a lot as well. So those are the things that I looked at, because based off of what I was bringing into the whole experience of getting a master's. And then once you're in there, I feel like I learned how to be a student as a grad student. That's when I learned time management. That's when I learned how to, ask questions, ask better questions, connect with people, and just really get the full college experience outside of being a student athlete, because I do feel like I missed out on that as a student athlete in the undergrad. And I met amazing people. I met amazing people during grad school that I still keep in contact with today, professors that I still keep in contact with today. And when I took my first 2 classes, I remember making my first A, like on grad paper. I was like, oh, we can do this. We good now. We good. This is everything. Like I was meant to be here. It gave me that like full circle moment. And I had a class, human relations, and we were talking about how to create safe spaces for professionals and for our students, and create this conversation and looking at the personhood of each student that we serve. It was just like, oh, I'm meant to be here. Here we are again, soaring. We are flying. We're doing this. So
enjoy it.
Yes, absolutely. And I would also, last thing, I would reach out to the programs. Reach out to the programs if they have virtual visits, if they have an info session, attend those things. They're free. You get to ask as many questions as you like. You get to get a feel for the faculty, the resources available, that campus in general. Getting your master's is a big deal. It's a big step, and it will take energy and effort. So if you're going to do it, you want to cross your T's and dot your I's to make sure that you're making the best sound decision on the school that you're choosing to, help you get that degree and then take you to the next level.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Adriel?
Yes. So you mentioned about tips and tricks and learning how to be a student, like how to really be a student in grad school. One of them was asking better questions. You mentioned, what do you believe, or what do you consider a good question? Like, what is your belief on what makes a good question?
Ooh. Ooh. I say that, okay, so hold on, let me back up.
In short, what is a good question?
I'm trying to answer this in a, because I get questions all day, every day. And some of the questions is like, okay, that is right there for you to look up on your own, or I've told you this already. So those types of questions, they're not good questions. They're also not bad questions. It's just, I think I would like for you to take a step further in thinking critically, or thinking on your own, or just activating those muscles. Because now we live in a society where everything is spoon-fed, everything is accessible immediately, versus some things are not. And if you don't have it in that way, it's like, well, where is it? I want it now, and why is it not here? So for me, a good question, that is subjective. It is subjective, but I think for me now, when I think a good question is, how can we add to the dialogue of something of a topic that's already existing? So for instance, how can we better, what do we need to do in our organizational culture at an institution, so that our students our staff members feel supported? That would be a good question, because now you're looking at the experiences of staff members, you're looking at the organizational culture of an institution, leadership, like what can be done versus, just I don't know. That's what I think. Just off of everything right now. Something that like is thought provoking, gets dialogue going, gets like, okay, I'm hearing your perspective, I'm hearing all this information. Like this is good. That to me is a good question, because it gets me excited as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
dialogue.
a pretty good question.
And just one more thing, if you don't mind sharing, like as far as in your experience and what worked for you as your toolbox, like from your toolbox, what tips and tricks really worked for you as far as like time management? How did you come to that? How did you come to terms with that? Or organizational skills? What organizational skills work for you? Like how does this apply?
So as a student or as a professional now?
I would appreciate to get both, because as a student right now, I would like to see what works for me and what doesn't work for me. However, when I do come into this field, I would like to get the heads up as far as entering professionally.
Absolutely. So for me, I like routine.
Okay.
So for me, during grad school, every Sunday I would go up to my office. It was a TA office. I would go up every Sunday, and I would rock out my readings for the week. So I'd read for the week, and then during the weekday, I would work on like papers. So one day was on the history of higher ed. The next day was on the multicultural in higher ed, or the next day was on, some other class in higher ed. So that way, if my history of higher ed paper, if I had class on Wednesday, I would be able to do it on Monday. And then my multicultural was on Tuesday, and I was working on that Tuesday, and I had that class on Thursday. So that's how I was able to balance my time and give myself Sundays to just get ready for the week. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, walking across campus, listening to the birds chirping, and just being alone in a quiet space so I could get the work done. Now, time management. How do I manage my time now? Again, I think I keep routines. So I know every day I have emails in some capacity. I check my emails, or we have peer mentors, and I happen to supervise peer mentors. So I know to check in with them, or ask them questions, or send them information that is needed. I know we have CLCs. So if I have a CLC that coming week, depending on the day, I will send out the outline for that CLC a week ahead. So these are some of the things that I do. I make myself notes, physical notes, and I also have mental notes, because I'm just so used to doing that activity. It becomes muscle memory. I also have a planner. I use the ATA planner, and I put down important things in there, and mark off things as they come as well. I will say for me, or it's something that I'm still having to it changes. Like, time management, organization, it fluctuates. And some things I do miss, I do miss it. But when I do miss it, I communicate to the best of my ability that, hey, this is not here, or I need to spend more time focusing on this, or can I get support with this? And we keep it rolling. So
Good response.
Awesome, thank you.
you're
Of
welcome.
course. Do we have any questions in the chat box?
No, not at this time.
All right, perfect. So you're talking to us a lot about having to research, check our stuff, make sure everything is on the right track. So then what are some things that students can research in Google to learn more about higher education specifically? Where should we be looking?
I got the acronyms for y'all. Okay. First one, NASPA, NASPA. That is the Association for Student Affairs. All things higher ed. They just had a conference wrap up in Baltimore. NASPA is a huge student organization. That's higher ed organization with different departments, different topics. One of the things that they do is that if you are interested in pursuing a career in higher ed during your grad experience, they have an opportunity where you can apply to be I'm gonna go as far to say a NASPA fellow, where they will help you, they will set you up for a mock interview. They will give you, I think it's called an externship experience. And then you get to go to the conference and network with everybody. It's a wonderful, wonderful organization. I was a part of it when I was in grad school, but it gets expensive as a professional. So the best thing I could say is all these organizations that I'm telling you about, as a student, you get the benefit of having it more affordable than it's like a few $10 as a student, it's a few $100 as a professional. There's ASHE, which is ASHE, that is the study of higher ed. There is TXAN, that is the Texas Education Association for Advising Network. That's here in Texas. That's TEXAAN. There is NISTS, that is specifically for the study of transfer students. That is the one that the ATA team is a part of, because we study transfer students.
What was that acronym?
NISTS. There is AERA, that is the American Educational Research Association, but it's AERA. I may have that acronym wrong, but that's another research base on education and higher ed as well. There is, and then there's some for like specific population. So there is one for Latinx in higher ed. There's one for Black African American in higher ed. There's one for Asians in higher ed. You can break it down as well, but those are some of the bigger ones that I've mentioned. NACADA, NACADA. NACADA is the also another advising association, and then there's also NACDA, which is the one for student athletes. There's a lot of acronyms out there, y'all. A lot. One of the search engines that I use, is higher ed jobs, for higher ed jobs. There is Inside Higher Ed, which is a journal magazine for higher ed, everything higher ed.
Is this higher ed with ER, or is this higher ed like this?
Higher, ER, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the Chronicle of Higher Ed. All Inside Higher Ed, the Chronicle of Higher Ed are also available to you through your UHD library. So that's free.
Oh, it's in the database?
Yes, it's in the
awesome.
database. There's those are the ones that I have at the top of my head right now.
And are all those, or at least the ones that you've mentioned, organizations that students can start getting involved in now? Nice.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I was about to say something. You can see if they have scholarships, you can see if they have internships. Like for instance, NISTS has a transfer student ambassador, where I think every year they bring their transfer student ambassadors for that year to the NISTS conference so that we can sit, transfer students, advocates can sit and have conversations with these transfer students about their experience, about what they need. And I think there's also scholarships available and other wonderful opportunities as well. They all have conferences. So when in doubt, if you want to be a part of something, you can also volunteer and you can still get the same perks as well. Get to network, get to work, get some swag, and everything like that as well. So yeah.
Sounds fun. Well, we've talked a lot of great things about higher education, but I want to know, what's the hardest thing about pursuing a career in higher education?
Ooh.
There's many things for me, at least. They have been challenges. I would say one of the hardest things for me coming into higher ed was once I completed my degree and I applied for my first job, was them, was not being offered the salary I wanted because of my experience. Now, I worked community college. I was a volunteer coach. I was athletic advising interning. I was TA, GA, ABCD. I had it.
You had the alphabet.
I had the alphabet, but they said that it wasn't full-time experience.
Okay.
And so for me, that was challenging because it's like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but now the thing that's hindering me a bit is it's not full-time. But I was like, it was full-time to me.
What do they mean by like full-time job? Like
So-
full-time experience, excuse me.
So when I added up all the years, and they see the intern, the years added up did not equate. When I saw intern and TA and GA and all these things, it did not, for me, it did not equate to 3 years of full-time experience that they were asking for.
Okay.
Oh,
Because you will see,
okay. So they have their own way of calculating that type of.
yes, and they have job descriptions have ways to word it as well. So be careful when you're looking at these positions. Well, say 3 years of experience. Okay, I have 3 years of experience. But do you really have 3 years of experience when it comes to, well, you were an intern for, 2 years, and then and in those 2 years, you also were a GA for a year. That's 3 years of experience to me when I add it up.
Yeah.
So that was challenging. And like I mentioned, higher ed, we are overworked. Higher educators are overworked and underpaid. So not making the salary that I wanted to out the gate, that hurt. I think for me, that's when I really started to wrestle with, if I am even supposed to be here, how can I do this? Why am I still doing this? And it just felt like I felt stuck. Burnout is a real thing. High turnover is a real thing, especially in the fields of some of the best ways to get some skin in the game and get some experience under your belt: academic advising, res life, and financial aid. Oh, and student activities as well. Though if you want to get some experience and you want to live a life, those are the four best ways. Those are the ways that you will get like a kind of a better picture of higher ed. It also comes with, the burnout and the high turnover as well. But it's great. It's a great way to get your skin in the game, because if you're in res life, you know how to manage conflict, you know how to manage people, you know how to, do programming and events, and you know how to work with students, people, housing is so important for college students. So that's one of those things that is up there like, okay, if you can do this, we can put you in another department, you'll be fine. Academic advising is the same way as well, so I would say for those would be That was a challenge. And then the challenge I'm working through now is I am younger. I often get mistaken for a student depending on what I'm wearing that day. And with that, people don't always think that I am a staff member or a professional. So they will, you know, they may not call on my voice to speak, or they may treat me differently, you know. And even with my students, I am not a student. I am a staff member. Something that and with that there's boundaries and there's levels of respect and everything that we have to do. When my professor told me something in my internship class, they said something I want you to always remember: when you're working with students, you can be familiar but not friendly. So I'm working on creating those boundaries of, we can be familiar, we could talk about things, but however, do not mistake me for a friend, because I am not your friend. I am not your friend. And that looks different because I look like I could be your friend. We're relatively close in age. I'm not dressing up this is special attire wear. You know, I'm not dressing up like that. So that is something that I'm working on, creating those boundaries and checking in with myself, saying, hey, Ash, don't share too much, or don't engage with that. Or if you got to give a student a look, give them a look. Like Dr. Estes mentioned in the CLC last semester, give them a look. I think my look is coming. Right? My look is coming. So if I'm looking, then you know. So those are the challenges that I've experienced thus far, at the beginning, in the middle, and where I am right now.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Does anyone have any questions?
You have a question? Oh, excuse me, I know I ask you a lot, right? Just quickly going back to the economical standpoint as far as how you get underpaid and overworked. I understand that one is already overworked. However, do you believe it's possible, or can you really moonlight at another job if it comes to a point where you do need an extra income?
Absolutely. I come from a family where, you know, side hustles was our thing.
There you go.
So I am not above a side hustle. I am not currently actively, I don't have a regular side hustle. So no, I'm not, I will get one just for me, because I want to buy a house, you know. I want to pay off debt, student loans. Joe ain't done his part yet. So I need those student loans taken care of. So an extra source of income would be that. Something that I've been wanting to do is begin teaching again as an adjunct. So if anything, the extra experience I would be getting would be looking like that. And hopefully that it does come with extra income.
Right.
So yeah, that would be.
It is possible.
It is absolutely possible. Just do it after hours. Don't let it conflict with your scheduled 9 to 5. But yeah, many of professionals in higher ed and outside have it.
Okay.
You know, inflation is inflating. Gas is high. So you know that
Gotta do what you gotta do.
you
Pay the bills.
have to do what you have to do. You have to do what you have to do.
Awesome. So that being said, or are you good?
No,
Andrea?
no,
Okay,
for
I had
now.
to make sure. Or what about inside the chat? Are we still good over there? So, what does it look like?
No, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Cool. So how do you balance, you know, you have your mental health and you have your work, but what about family and your friends outside of work? How do you balance those two? How do you spend time with friends and family?
So with family, I have 4 sisters. 3 of us are in Houston and in the surrounding Houston areas. So I see them maybe about once a month, and then we FaceTime all throughout the week. So I have my family here, and then I have a community of friends. I am building a community of friends here in Houston, and that they come from work. They come from the nonprofit that I work for, as well for my community service, the Mahogany Project. So on the weekends, I give my time to them for them a few hours out of the week on a Saturday. And I think as you get older, it is tricky building friendships. So that's something that I'm still like navigating, and the pandemic really helped me. It pushed me out there to reevaluate some friendships and break up with some friends and get broken up with. And so I take that as an opportunity for me to start over and building like what I desire out of friendships now as I'm stepping into my big age of 30. So it's coming along, but my family is here. I have a group of friends here, and then I also have the family, my chosen family, through the nonprofit that I work for. So yeah.
Nice. So you said the Mahogany Project? What is
Yes.
that?
The Mahogany Project is a nonprofit organization that is centered around bringing awareness, education, and reducing the stigmas of trans, gender nonconforming, non-binary communities of color. So that is what we do. I serve as the program director for that organization, and growing up, I've always wanted to be in spaces where people who look like me are visible. LGBT plus people are visible. So when I got to a place where I was established enough, and I said, okay, it's time to get involved, I knew exactly the population that I wanted to serve. It just took me some time to find the organization that I wanted to be a part of. And I've been with the Mahogany Project since February of 2021. Yeah.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
So then what does a day in the office look like for you for both the organization and here in higher ed? How are you balancing that? What does that look like?
So higher ed, I come in, I get to work, check my emails, sing a couple songs.
Beautiful songs.
Beautiful songs, beautiful gowns. And like, I'll go off the perspective of this to CLC. So at the beginning, towards the end of the semester, I am starting to think about the CLCs for the next following semester. So getting dates scheduled, reaching out to professionals, and just planning out that aspect of the CLCs. Excuse me. And now I have supervision under my belt, which I'm trying to navigate. So
You're doing great.
Thank you. Listen, no one told me that it would be this. It's a learning curve for me, at least. So meeting with our peer mentors, giving out learning how to delegate, because I will do it myself. But learning that and just checking in with them, making sure that I'm giving them the support that they need in their job. Going through ATA 3099, making sure that if there's any questions about ATA 3099 coming up, marking off checklists and everything, meeting with Christy, popping in about 3-4 times a day, just talking with her, singing more songs. I think we're at the 12 o'clock hour, so I'll go for my walk. But it's most, and then like on the days where we have events, it's all hands on deck. So like maybe an hour or two before, you'll see me zipping, running around the space to get everything ready, or working with Erica just to make sure that she has everything that she needs, and that so she can shine on the back end of the logistics and everything like that. So it's every day is different. Every day is different. But when it comes to like the planning, the events and the CLCs and everything like that, those change, and those typically happen, like the CLCs for the next semester happen during mostly during the summer or the breaks, like at the beginning of November, I'll start outreach. And then there's something else I do. Oh.
So much. You do so much.
No, it's just I got short term. Yeah. Oh, during the week of CLCs, I'm sending out the outlines, touching base with our speakers, making sure that they're good to go, setting up times to meet with them about, this is what to anticipate. You have questions, this, that, and the third. So that's what it is.
Nice. Perfect.
and a lot more singing, y'all. If I don't sing in the office, check on me. That's how you know.
We
I'm
need to
not-
start singing for you.
Yeah, that's how you know I need to just, are you good? I'm good. Yeah.
Just a little check-in.
Yeah.
Audrey, I saw your hand.
We just touched base on pretty much a to-do list, a checklist of what goes on throughout the day. Obviously, not everything is smooth sailing.
Mhm.
I mean, there is bound to be turbulence and therefore conflict. As someone who wants to go into higher education, I would like in advance us to how would you deal, or how do you deal with conflict in the workplace of higher education?
Whew. I am a believer of constructive confrontation. So what that means is there are some things that you're just going to have to address. And in that, it does not have to be, you know, disruptive or anything like that. Like, so for instance, supervising students. Students, we're all people. And, you know, students will be students. And so if there's a need to have a conversation about something that you're doing, that can happen. I am not afraid to have that conversation with you. But at the end, I want it to be constructive, where I hope I am like, okay, this is what happened. Let me know where you're coming from. Here's what I'm coming from. Here's why this is okay or it's not okay. And moving forward, what can happen from that. So I am a firm believer in constructive confrontation, and having those tough conversations. I am. You may see me pacing back and forth, doing a couple squats, going outside just to get okay, you can do to psych myself up, because it's not easy to do.
No,
It's
right.
not easy to do, but we have to do it,
True.
because that's how things fester and just turn into implode, and that's not good at all. But at the same time, it's I'm also learning how to. I took my professional development this month was on emotional intelligence and self-management. I wear my emotions on my face. And when I am frustrated, I shut down. I cannot be shutting down at work. And so I am now I'm practicing, like, how do you recognize that you're frustrated, you're recognizing that, you know, this for you can no longer engage in this conversation. What are some steps that you can take to remove yourself from it and get the space, breathe that you need, and then come back to it? So for me, I have a little card in my desk about like what happens when I do get frustrated. And that could be with coworkers, or that could be with something's not working. Someone, you know, I've reached out to them about this CLC and I have not heard back from them. And we are about 2 days away and I don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll get frustrated off that. So it's just me regulating myself. So yeah, recognizing myself and regulating those emotions. But conflict, you're dealing with people, many of personalities, many of people coming into this space. And you're not always going to have a good day. You're not always going to have a good day, but at the end of the day, while you're here, be respectful. If you're not having a bad day, as Ms. Tabitha Brown says, you know, y'all have a good day. But if you're not going to have a good day, don't go messing up somebody else's day. You know what I'm saying? So regulating that and just making sure at the end, you're a professional and you don't want the reputation of popping off. You don't want the reputation of someone who's difficult to work with, because that follows you, unfortunately. So I would say learning how to have constructive confrontation, constructive conversations, constructive feedback and criticism. Those are the things that I think I am working on and learning and growing in, and other future higher educators can do as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I hope that answered your question.
No, yeah, definitely, because now I need to learn how to, like, I get to recognize what makes me, like as far as having that, you know, have my own checklist, figure out what's going on, and then I can tread the waters with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I always ask permission before I have like, hey, can I talk to you about this?
Yeah.
Or hey, you know, just to not catch you off guard so much, but just let you know that, hey, I would like to talk to you, or I do need to talk to you about something. So I also give that as well.
Nice. Yes, David?
How do you handle situations where as a university employee, specifically here in Texas, being a mandatory reporter, do you feel like your degree prepares you for that? How do you prepare for those situations where you actually have to come into your position as a mandatory reporter? Like, how do you handle those super sensitive situations?
Ooh, mandatory reporting. Like with Title IX and stuff and
Yes.
student conduct? I have not experienced that often. So I can only speak to the limited experience that I do have. There are things that I will say, if someone brings something to my attention, I will let them know that, hey, I have to report this. I am legally bound to report this. I have to let you know that. So I will give that disclaimer to whoever I am talking with. And then most of the time, because I do have a supervisor and I do not want to catch them off guard, I will talk to them about it as well. What do I do? And then I also go to student conduct. I talk to the student conduct liaison or whoever, and talk to them about, hey, this is something I'm experiencing right now. This is a situation. What do I do? And see what they say, or see what is in the handbook and what can be done from there. I've most recently had to encounter mandatory reporting. So just trying to figure that out. I've let the student know if I'm working with a student. I've reached out to my supervisor, and I've also gone to the student conduct folks to ask for guidance and support. Those are my steps. I can't do anything else about the other piece because I am legally bound to have those conversations with the appropriate offices. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Also, do you feel like your degree coursework prepares you for that?
So those are the intangibles I was talking about. They don't have a class on student conduct in higher ed. They don't. They have issues in higher ed, issues in student affairs, and that may come up, but I have not taken a course on student conduct. They let you know, but that is one of the intangibles that you will have to get your feet wet and experience to know how to handle. And with experience comes wisdom. So once you get it under your belt, you'll be able to let that guide you moving forward.
Awesome, good question. Do we have any comments in the chat at all?
No more comments or questions.
All
I
right.
do.
You do.
What's your exact title?
My exact title?
Yes.
I am the CLC lady, aka the program manager. No, I'm the program manager, but also the CLC lady. So.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, so we're in the last few minutes of our CLC. Yes, already, time flies. I know. So just to wrap it up, one last final question. So we just came out of a pandemic, still working through it. A lot of things have changed, not just on the student side, but I'm sure also on the higher ed side. So what are some changes to come in higher ed that students need to be aware of, or what has been the biggest changes since the pandemic?
A number of things. I would say one of the most things I've noticed as an employee is the workday flexibility. Normally, student affairs, higher ed staff members are here all year. We get a week for holiday break in December. That's it. We have been in office for most of that post-pandemic, and we were in office during the pandemic. Now it's come to if I can get my work done outside of being in the office, that is exploring what that looks like. So for instance, non-student facing services. So we have, you know, I would even say us, like success coaches, or me being a program manager, or like our DBAs, or people who are working in the finances of higher ed. Those spaces, we're not working with students. So why do we have to be on campus? So I think institutions are recognizing that there are better ways to do the work that we do. There are different ways to do the work that we do, at the same time giving the support that is needed to the people who are actually doing the work. You know, how can we support our students better? Another thing is communications. How can we give this wealth of information to students in a bite-sized way? And that is TikTok. I don't know about y'all, but I could change the tire off TikTok.
And we just posted a video today, so go watch it.
Yes. So
Full money promo.
like being able to meet students at where they're at with feeding that information, because like we live in such a give me quick and easy type of society where students are not going to go into Google and type in UHD EDU. They will go to TikTok, or they go to Twitter, or they're going to Instagram and look for all that information. So how are we able to give students that information now? So one of the things I would say is learning those social media skills. I am not a TikToker, but I will Instagram you to the end of the world. So learning, those are some changes to come along with the what a work day and where that exists now. Also training, preparing, especially in the realm of academic advising and student success coaching, because they overlap a lot. Academic advisors are like the plug of the campus, honestly. That you have a question about student org, they'll look that up for you. If you have a question about certain college, they can look that up for you. But actually being properly trained to ask those questions, that is essential. So I would say that is something to come and advocate for it. If you're not getting that training, use your voice to do it. I know that it may fall on deaf ears at times, but there are some ears where it will fall on, and you can consider, and they may be able to consider, okay, how can we support these spaces that are having these heavy caseloads of student support and helping them do their job better? Because at the end of the day, if we don't do our part, it impacts the students the most, and they see it, whether we like to acknowledge that or not. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all your wonderful answers. It
Thank
is
y'all.
6 o'clock, or got 2 minutes. What?
All right,
Make
2
it
minutes,
quick.
and this is the last one, and it's a fun one. Okay, it's just
Fun
that's why I
one.
left it for last. If you could have dinner with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be with and why?
Ooh.
And dinner with anyone dead or alive, and who would it be and why?
That's like the hardest question.
It is.
Yes.
I would say that one of my queer ancestors, I would love to sit down and have a conversation with them about, what was it like growing up during your time? What should I be prepared for? How am I doing now? am I doing well? Am I doing good? No, like honestly,
You're doing great.
I would
With your struggle.
honestly,
Yeah.
really, truly, like I would like to know what their experience was like, and see how far we've come, see how far we have to go, and just know that there was somebody before me, like immediately in my family, that has walked this path, and say what's up, honestly.
Well,
But
thank you so much.
I don't know. Like anyone famous, I don't know if I would. No, see, I wouldn't. Not that anything's wrong with her. I think she's great. I just don't know what we would
It's nice to connect with like an ancestor.
I-
feel like.
I
It's
really
just-
do.
It's different, such different
Yes.
times. It's like two worlds colliding.
Yes,
you know,
and I
like-
grew up as a military kid. So most of my life was spent overseas. I did not have the opportunity to be like in where I'm from,
Yeah.
like where my parents are from, to know these people and have these conversations. So that's what I would do. Yeah, so that's why. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your
Thank
story with
y'all.
us today. We've all learned so much from you and you're doing awesome. Can't wait to see where you keep on going.
Thank you, thank you. And I
Of
hope,
course.
I was able to impart some information about higher ed into y'all. I don't know everything. I'm still 5 years into the game. But if y'all need anything, have any questions about grad school, letters of recommendation, making connections, getting involved, please let me know. I did not get into higher ed just for me. I got into higher ed for students and creating those experiences for them. So holla if y'all need me. And yeah.